will talk today about internationalization at KU Leuven, and I put there explicitly personal experience and reflections. That means I will not discuss Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe or Marie Curie, because there is so much knowledge about these things here. I would rather like to talk about things we have been doing in Leuven, giving you a flavor of the Leuven approach and my personal experiences there. Now, as you see on this slide, 1425, that's when the University of Leuven was founded. And so in 2 years' time, we will be 600 years young, and I think we will celebrate that. All right, maybe just one slide as an introduction on who I am. I'm a chemical engineer by training, and I also did a PhD in chemical engineering at KU Leuven. After obtaining my PhD, I went for something, a term you probably don't know, postdoctorates. And that's my first piece of experience I would like to share with you. When you do a PhD and you aim at an international career, you're supposed to go international. And that typically means you go for a postdoc somewhere, typically far away. That is not always compatible with your private conditions, your family life, whatever. So what we decided is, I will go international, but I will go for relatively short stays. 6 weeks, 2 months. But this way I could go, and you see it there, to Kyoto, to Stanford, and to Delaware. And it turned out to be as fruitful as a postdoc, because we still collaborate, there were publications, there was output. So this is a way, and I should not say this, but maybe even more for women than for men, to comply with international standards and go for it. Okay, then back in Leuven, I was head of the division Smart Soft Matter Rheology and Technology. And then, of course, as usual, later on you become head of the department, which I was from 2013 indeed to 21. But during this time at KU Leuven, and that's relevant for this presentation, I was coordinator of international affairs within the department. Also not at university level, within the department, and I was also the departmental coordinator of an Erasmus Mundus, but I will come back to that. What do I have in mind to present today is, first of all, I would like to present the KU Leuven. The KU Leuven, so the university and the city, because I think they have been doing a lot of efforts to gain an international profile. And the message here is, I think, this is something you do not do overnight. The same is true actually for the Department of Chemical Engineering. I will show you in a minute. And then I picked 5 aspects of internationalization. In this case, as I mentioned, mainly focusing on students rather than international scientific collaborations, because you know these things. Okay, let's start out with KU Leuven and Leuven. And the first thing you should consider, I believe, is what is the mission statement of your institute? And of course, the mission statement of KU Leuven is quite long, but I took that part which is relevant for this community, and it says KU Leuven is research intensive. And that's indeed true. It's an internationally oriented university that cares for both fundamental and applied research. Engineers feel happy with that. I guess it's a strong inter and multidisciplinary in focus, and it strives for, again, international excellence. To this end, the KU Leuven works together actively with its research partners at home and abroad. So in this short sentence, you see 5 times the word international appearing in the mission statement. So yes, indeed, it's important. Now, some of you might wonder, Leuven, where on earth is Leuven? Actually, 15 years ago, I wondered where on earth is Cluj. But the problem has been solved. Leuven, you see it here, is in Belgium, obviously, and it's very centrally located, close to Amsterdam, close to Paris, now with a channel close to London, which of course helps. It helps because the environment by itself, it's international, it's relatively easy to attract people to come to this area. That's one thing. And then the city of Leuven, I would say it's equally beautiful as Cluj. It's also a medieval city. You see here some pictures. Our town hall, which is here, quite famous. The university library, which looks Gothic, but it's neo-Gothic because it was completely destroyed during the Second World War. And you see here also some distances, 100,000 inhabitants, keeping in mind that the university has about 60,000 students. Leuven is really dominated by the students, and we are about 25 kilometers from Brussels. Brussels, as you know, headquarters of NATO, Brussels headquarters of the EU. So the environment intrinsically is, I think, very international. Oh, by the way, I'm used to teaching, so if you have questions, ask the questions en cours de route. I don't mind at all. It's something. Just 2 slides, I think, on the history, because this is what I already told you. We started the university in 1425. But there is a story to that. Actually, at that time, there were 2 cities who were going to get some. The city of Lier, not far from Leuven, and the city of Leuven. And there were 2 options, a sheep market and a university. And Lier opted for the sheep market. So Leuven ended up with the university, fortunately. Okay, so 1425, that's when it all started. As many institutions, we suffered heavily from the French Revolution. It was then restarted afterwards. And then in the 60s, the University of Leuven, the Unitarian University of Leuven, was really growing very, very big. So they split it in a Flemish-speaking section, which remained in Leuven, and a French-speaking section, which they moved 20 kilometers south, which is in the French-speaking part of Belgium, and they called it Louvain-la-Neuve, so the new Leuven. And actually, we are getting on very well nowadays. It used to be a bit different in the past. And in 2 years' time, both Leuven and Louvain-la-Neuve will jointly celebrate 600 years of university. If you have a tradition of 600 years, there are obviously a few famous names to mention. The second one, of course, I guess everybody knows, Erasmus. So many of the initiatives within the European framework are called after Erasmus. The person on the left-hand side is Pope Adrian. He was at one time professor at KU Leuven, but in the international context, he was also the tutor of the Emperor Charles V, which I guess you all know as well. And then there are maybe somewhat more local, Vesalius starting really medicine and the like, and Mercator, who is the one for maps and well, geology and geography and things like that. There are, of course, many more, but these are the ones I think you might know. Okay, enough about history. Let's go to international programs. I put here some numbers. They are not up to date, but they are still very relevant and a reasonably good representation of what we do. And you see that the first line in English. It's of course important if you go for international students, international collaborations, that you do offer, well, activities in English, especially for us, because the majority of our courses are in Dutch, which would be a handicap, of course. And you see there about 3,000 courses we have in Dutch. It says there 62 master and advanced master program, meaning a lot of master programs can be followed in English. For our exchange, we use what you see there, ECTS code, European Credit Transfer System, which means every course is worth so many credits. Wherever you go, it's 3 credits, it's 6 credits. It's making life, of course, very easy between universities. And then you see there so many joint degree programs. I will come back to that. Double degree programs and so on, international programs. But you see the picture, there is a lot of effort being put in trying to be international from the university itself. If you give the background, you should also give some numbers. And here you see the division of our students, and it's making sense, of course. Bachelor students make up a very large group. It says here 44%. Master students about 31%. And then, of course, PhD students, advanced master students, and so on. I think these numbers are quite normal. And you will also see the most popular faculties there. In Leuven, it's economics and then medicine. Actually, the University Hospital of Leuven is the biggest hospital in Belgium. And probably also the best, but okay. Then there is engineering technology as a large faculty, law and arts. But okay, you are mainly interested in international aspects and so international students. So I have some statistics on that as well. Okay, not completely up to date, but it's fair to say that at this moment, from the 60,000 students in Leuven, it's about 10,000 international, roughly speaking. And then you see where do they come from? And within the EU, it's not surprising the Netherlands, Italy, Spain, Germany, because they are just in the neighborhood. And then from outside Europe, there is a very huge Chinese community and a very large also Indian community. After all, relatively small given the size of the country is the US. But there are reasons for that, and I will actually also come back to that. All right, so let's say 10,000 international students out of a group of 60,000. Now, universities and rankings. That's also one of these things. And I know there are many rankings, Shanghai rankings, whatever rankings. But one of the rankings we, and I mean we as a faculty, are very proud of, we are the Faculty of Engineering Science, obviously. That is, for many years already, KU Leuven has been the #1 university as most innovative university in Europe. And if you see innovation, well, that's what engineering is about, obviously. It has to do with patents, it has to do with publications, It has to do with spin-offs, well, so the whole environment of entrepreneurship one way or the other. And so there, of course, our faculty and our university is quite proud that KU Leuven there is on position 1 for many years. If you go to the international, they are at position 4, so worldwide. All right. That's what I wanted to mention about KU Leuven and Leuven in the framework of international. I have just now very few slides on the department. And if you think about a department and internationalization, I think you mainly think about the academic staff. And if you look at the academic staff, you can wonder, well, where do they come from? What are their basic diplomas? What's their educational background? Important these days, gender, yes. And something people very often don't consider, that is age distribution. Do you have a nice Gauss curve with young people, also young people, and so on? So I would like to show you, to start with this picture, really, yeah, the picture of the staff of our department. Don't worry about who's on the picture. You see, we have divided the department in 3, more or less, equally sized divisions. 1 CREAS, dealing mainly with chemical and biochemical engineering safety. SMART, to which I belong, which is the soft matter division, and then the process engineering division. Okay, and 2 smaller divisions. Now, if I look at the criteria for international aspects in the broader context, where do we stand? So I went counting. We are 26 academic staff members, and that's where they come from. I say the majority is Belgian, and that's true, but given the fact what you see here, 3 from Germany, 1 from Turkey, 1 Turkish Swiss, 1 Brazil Swiss, 1 UK, US, 1 Russia, 1 China, Australia, 1 Italian Japanese, and 1 US. That means we have 11, if I'm not mistaken, 11 out of 26 do have a truly international background. That's, I think, very good. Actually, I think we have more or less reached the maximum there. The reason not being that we cannot hire more international staff, but the reason being that our bachelor education is in Dutch. And of course, if somebody comes from Japan or Finland, it takes a long time, a very long time, before they are able not to speak Dutch, but to be able to teach in Dutch to bachelor students. So that puts a kind of an inherent limitation to 50% of really international staff. That's about being able. That's a message. And then if you look at the diplomas again, they are mainly chemical engineers, but we have a lot of bioengineers as well, and a few chemists. That's also good to have some background, multidisciplinarity. I think that's better than having 26 chemical engineers. Now I'll show you the picture again. And now I'm looking at the gender balance. At first glance, it doesn't look too bad, I think. Of course, you need to count. From the 26 members, we have 15 male and 11 female. I think this is balanced. What more can you do? So what's my experience? Because I wanted to give you some personal experience and notes. I believe diversity is indeed important, be it gender, be it background, being where you come from, because it can create, even within a single department, in this case chemical chemical engineering, a multidisciplinary environment. But the second line is the but. You cannot do this overnight. You cannot do this in a year. It takes a very long time because, well, when do you have an opportunity to become more diverse? That is when you have a vacancy. So it's important that whenever you have a vacancy, you are aware of these aspects. And I think we have been doing that for many years. And after 10 years or maybe even more, that's the result. Actually, I should mention that at no moment we had what we call positive discrimination. Yeah, we never said, okay, this is a position and now we want a female from abroad. That we never did. But we were always aware of, okay, we should go for diversity in general terms. Let's look for international candidates. Let's look for minority candidates. And of course, they have to meet all the standards. I think that's what you don't lower the standards because of secondary arguments. Okay, but it takes time. That's my experience. Right. Let's now move to the 5 initiatives I would like to discuss briefly with you. 5 initiatives with which I have been involved one way or the other. And the first is an EU initiative. It's the so-called Athens Exchange. What's it all about? What's the basic idea? You have a group, a consortium of universities who contribute to this Athens program. What they do is they organize, they offer courses to their partner universities. And every university, well, it's about faculties of engineering in this case, they offer 2, 3, 4 courses. Okay, and then the students from KU Leuven can take a 1-week course at one of these partner universities. Students from the partner universities obviously can come to Leuven for a 1-week course. These courses, we are participating in that for a long time. We are always organized a fixed week in November and a fixed week in spring. That's of course facilitating exchanges because people are going everywhere. And if the students take such an Athens course, it's 1 week, they get 3 ECTS credits for that. Keeping in mind that an academic year is 60 ECTS credits, it's a reasonable credit, but okay, it's 5%, so I think it's fair. And so, for instance, what we organized this year was a food rheology, our specialty, for the Athens framework. All right. I should also mention that a large group of students participates in this. It's not an unicum, it's a lot of people that do it. You don't have to go through this list, but these are the 16 partner universities of our consortium. But what you will see is they are all over Europe. They are in the north, they are in the south, they are in the east, they are in the west. So students really, they can choose things. They choose, of course, the content, something they would like to learn something about. And let's be honest, they also choose to a certain extent the location. They want to go to Prague or they want to go to Stockholm. That's fine. So what is my experience with this Athens initiative? Well, I think it's nice. It's nice because even students that are reluctant to go international, and there are people like that, convincing them to go abroad for just 1 week, that's okay. Even if they don't like it, it's just 1 week. So the, how shall I say it, the activation energy for engineers, the activation energy is very low. And so a lot of students do indeed participate. Second thing I have learned, setting up a 1 week course takes time. It's a substantial effort, but of course, once the course is there, it's a course at master level, so it doesn't change from year to year too much. So once it's there, you can give it several consecutive years. That's perfectly okay. That's something else, like if you do a research workshop, you have to adapt and adapt and adapt. Here, once the course is there, it's typically okay. The good thing is also the students go elsewhere. They get to know another environment. They get to know another research field typically. And quite a few of them this way get the taste for something. And for instance, they might come back for a PhD later on. And recruiting PhD students these days, certainly in engineering, it's not that easy because, well, there is the industry, yeah? And the industry is taking our good students. I have good relations with the industry, but okay. So it's the reality. So this is a way to motivate PhD students, well, to go for a PhD. The last line is something I cannot do anything about it, but it's true that the level of the course is university dependent, and also the effort of that is required from the students is location dependent. Sometimes they have a rather tough exam, sometimes they have more of a kind of questionnaire or a group project or whatever. That's a fact. Do we have to worry about it? I don't think so. It's 3 credits, it's an international experience, whether they have been working for 24 hours or 35 hours. Right. Yes.
What happens with the local course?
Well, that's the good thing is, because it's the same week, always, we know it in advance, it's on our agenda, Athens week. And many professors say, okay, that week we postpone our courses or we record our courses. We take it into account. And that's why it's so good that it's a fixed week, it's known well in advance. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 3rd week of November or so, so we know it. And because so many students do participate, well, you do take it in account. It's not just 1 or 2, then you say, yeah, sorry, I don't care. But if half the class is out on Erasmus, you do take it into account. And that's the good thing about having it very structured.
Yes, is one city is activity is 28 pounds. How can be that 1 week instead of which is 40 hours spending suddenly brings.
It's a pragmatic solution, because in Leuven, and not only in Leuven, we have decided that we don't go for 1 credit and 2 credits and 4 credits and a half. A regular course is 6 ACTS. A small course is 3 ACTS. And so it's considered that this course, well, it's 5 days, it's from morning till evening, they sometimes get homework. I don't do the calculation whether it's exactly the right amount of hours, but they spent a full week on a particular topic, and so it's judged to be 3 credits. And I think it's fair. They also have to go somewhere, and if we would say it's 1.5 credits, from an administrative point of view, it would be terrible because an academic year is 60 points. If you say now I have 1.5, so I need 58.5. Impossible, eh? Because we have 3 credit courses and 6 credit courses. And we are not the only ones. It's a pragmatic solution which I think. Yeah.
Accommodation program. Who's paying
Accommodation is to a certain extent so because in a fixed week, our students are gone, other students come in. Our KU Leuven students, they go on Erasmus. So if they stay in dormitories, they are away for a week. There are not everybody, but that's the fact that it's 1 week. They're gone, others come in. It's not always that easy, and I think the youth hostel has solved many problems. But that's okay for 1 week. Eh? All these universities belong to the consortium, so that's a course they organize. So if my student goes to an Athens course in Prague, that's fully accredited. Eh? Of course, they are a member of an approved EU consortium. Yeah. Of course. That's a regular procedure. All the courses we offer are accredited. Yeah. Oh. It's part of the yeah. Okay, well, the thing of this is just one course at another university. If we move on to Erasmus, that's an exchange also for students, also typically at the master level. But now the idea is that students go abroad for 1 semester, which means 30 credits, making life easy, or they go abroad for 1 year, 60 credits. And of course, again, we have, I would say, long list of partner universities. But whereas the Athens exchange, it's not department specific. You can take quality control as a chemical engineer, as a mechanical engineer, as a whatever engineer. Now for the Erasmus exchange, as it's for a semester, the partner universities are department dependent. For instance, we sent our students to Politecnico di Milano, the University of Naples, the University of wherever, but there we need a certain match of the program. And mechanical engineering does the same. So it's department specific. That's what I say there. Okay, they study for 1 semester or 2 semesters, but in the end, the students still get their diploma from their home university. So you become a chemical engineer at KU Leuven who has studied for 6 months in Naples. But it's still a KU Leuven diploma. I'll put this into perspective with the dual degree, which is something different. Now, as this requires the students to go abroad a semester or a year, it means not all the students do it, not the vast majority either, but a substantial number of students do it. And I didn't look up the data for this year, but I looked at the incoming students because you have outgoing students, you have incoming students. And this year, 22-23, we have 7 incoming Erasmus students And you see there it's quite nicely distributed. Portugal, France, Denmark, twice Napoli, once Czechia, and once Finland. That's also something, a project I think which is smoothly run. All right, what are my experiences with this Erasmus exchange? I think, and I mentioned it already, it's important that the program matches the local program, sure, but it doesn't have to be 100% equivalent. It should match it. It should be a nice program on chemical engineering, but I don't think you should go course by course. That's not necessary. Actually, chemical engineering programs at different universities have their own emphasis, are slightly different. So you should look for programs which nicely match your own program, but they should not be identical. Okay, for the university itself, or for the department, it's not a huge burden because those students, they follow the local classes together with the local students, so it's just some more students. That's easy. But what I find very important from experience is, well, sooner or later, problems do happen. Of course, it's very important that you know the locals or the local coordinator of this program. So I think it's better as a department to have maybe 5 partner universities for exchange rather than 25 who you don't know. If you have a relatively restricted number and there is a problem, you pick up the phone. And most of the time, problems get solved this way. Now, I would like to say that, and that's important, I think, of course, the students pick up courses, they go abroad, but they also pick up something of the local culture because it's a semester or a year. And very important, they might also pick up the language. And I'll give an example from, I know very well, our daughter. Our daughter studied economics in Leuven, and she went for a semester to France, to the University of Rennes. They have a good school of economics, so I guess she learned economics in France. But okay, that's fine, that's nice, but that's maybe not the most important part. When she came back, she was absolutely fluent in French. She had, of course, some knowledge before. She came back, she was very fluent in French, and now she is an assistant professor in Lille, France. Because, yeah, she knew the language and the French, they find this very important, of course. So picking up culture and the language, I think for your future career can be very important. Maybe if you come to work for Siemens and you speak German fluently, it's maybe an asset, eh? You don't know. Well, just an example, but okay. That's, I think, a plus of this Erasmus exchange, which obviously you don't have with that. 1 week, it's... Right, where am I? Yes, this is a more difficult one. Dual degrees. What's good? Yes. Well, we as a faculty do it in the master. There are faculties that go to the 3rd year of the bachelor. We don't do that. We do it in the master, be it 1st semester or 2nd semester. And if it's in the 2nd master, it's often including the master thesis. That's a possibility, yes, if you do in the 2nd master. It's not so important whether it's the 1st or the 2nd semester because the students take local courses. They follow the local program. So whether it's the 1st or the 2nd semester, it's not so important. It is, of course, important to have a good program if you want to go for the master thesis, because then you need a topic, you need a promoter, well, you need an agreement, so that's okay, but that you have to organize the year before, right? But in principle, it's flexible within the master. So when you organize it. So there are students who are a bit afraid the first master, I'm not sure, and then they go to the second master. Can be done.
Let's say the third or the was in second semester the third year has a requirement for
well, there is a Erasmus coordinator, and the Erasmus coordinator has to see whether the really important courses the student takes in Leuven or takes at the other university, or if that is not possible, the next year is obliged to take that course rather than a choice course. Because in fact, how do you say? An optional course. Yeah, you can replace, suppose a student, chemical engineering, doesn't have the opportunity to have a course on transport phenomena. You need transport phenomena, then the coordinator can say, when you come back, you drop an optional course and you take transport phenomena. But that's only for those really, really core courses like reactor design, kinetic analysis, transport phenomena, and a few more. That's why the coordinators have to know each other and the programs.
Two short questions in between. Leuven University, is it private or state university?
It's privately organized but fully state recognized, fully funded by the government, but the organizing authority is private.
And second question, what is the tuition fee for Belgian people to enter the university and for international students to enter?
For Belgian students, it depends on the income of their parents. Yeah? I think, I don't know the exact numbers now. I think for a student which has a fellowship from the government, I think it's around €1,000. And non-fellowship students, I think it's around 5,000. But I can look up the numbers, well, they are on the website. But for foreign, it depends whether it's EU or non-EU. I really have to look up the numbers. 1,000. Yeah.
For a year.
A year, yes. Yeah. But for foreigners, it's, well, non-EU and EU is different.
It's clear, but
I look it up. I don't know by heart. You look it up. Yes, where was I? Okay, yeah, dual degrees. What's the idea there? Well, the name says it, a dual degree, a degree from two universities. So there the idea is that the students study 1 year in Leuven at another university. So in a way, that is comparable what you do with the Erasmus 60 credits exchange. But in this case, the students get a diploma, a degree from the two universities. That's what the name dual means. And one of the important things here is the students for the 2 years of study pay the registration fee as if they were at home. Now, I think you feel what I want to say. Registration fees at KU Leuven are not very high. Students, we have one of those dual degrees, that's with the University of Delaware in the States. I think it's the number 4 in chemical engineering in the States. Registration fees there are huge. Well, so huge that our students typically don't go there. In the framework of this dual degree, a student can go to Delaware at the registration fee of Leuven, which is, of course, very interesting, but I should make a few nuances there. We only send a few students per year in this program because things have to be balanced. And of course, it's much more difficult to attract students from Delaware to come to Leuven, not because Leuven is not a good university. Actually, we have this dual degree because we think we are playing level ground, but then they have to pay the Delaware tuition to come to Leuven. Much more difficult. Now, we have a dual degree for more than 10 years with the University of Delaware. What is my experience here? With Delaware, it works perfectly well because we have collaborations with that university, I would say, for 50 years. My promoter did his postdoc at the University of Delaware. It goes back that far. So you have to know each other very well to come up with a dual degree, but still, the legal complications are enormous. It's really, it's a pain to come up with a degree that is acceptable legally at KU Leuven, legally, in this case, University of Delaware. Actually, we tried, and the professors, the colleagues, for instance, in Cambridge, agreed to come up with a dual degree because they thought, yeah, Leuven is good, Cambridge is good. We can come up with a dual degree. It was legally a nightmare, so we have stopped.
But mainly it's because, I suppose, because count to count, where the PhD has the main degree because of the...
But this is nothing with a PhD, yeah? This is at the master level. Huh?
Master level.
This is at the master level. Okay. No, it's legal aspect, because a diploma has to be recognized, accreditation, and how to have this dual accreditation, it's difficult.
Not here because I participated on a similar program. Yeah. So in Valencia, my hometown, where I work now, yeah. And in Milano, in Politecnico di Milano, and maybe I don't know if it's because maybe in the European institutions there is a more common framework, it's easier to set the work.
I don't know. I didn't try with the EU. I tried with several British, and that was not easy. And then I think trying it with the US is even more difficult, but it's just because Delaware and Leuven have this long-standing relation that so many people know each other, and still it's not easy.
And that's a big difficult, as opposed to that's a problem. You know, it's easier to be in Europe because you have more or less the same.
Yeah, because it's yes,
and the British system is quite different from the European. It is quite different. And
also the French system for me is still almost.
There are also other
so it's not easy. And the second thing is for the students, of course, it's a tremendous experience. Let's be honest, they go to the States for a year, they get a dual degree. For us, there is a downside on it because we send our best students to Delaware. And people in Delaware are stupid, eh? So the majority of those excellent students get offered there a PhD position. So we lose, in a way, good PhD students to Delaware, and some come back to Europe, yes. Some don't even come back to Europe. So from the student point of view, it's fantastic. From our department point of view, it's very interesting because it's promotion for our department. You can go to Delaware, but it's not, well, it's not black and white, because we lose some of our best students. That's part of education. And then one thing, which is also, do I have time now? Yeah, because. Okay. Then I want to talk a bit briefly about international summer schools. What's the idea? Okay, it's again, the university is organizing a 1-week course, like in the Athens, but now it's a 1-week course, much more focusing on research, on our fields of specialty. And for instance, what we do is we organize every 2 years a summer course on rheology, which means flow and deformation of weather. But okay, that's not so important. It's a summer school, but now not aiming at master students, but aiming at PhD students, and also about half of the participants come from industry. So that's why we do it in summertime when, well, the equipment is available, the auditoria are available, and so we organize summer schools. We have been doing so over the years. So we made again a tradition, and that's again a kind of piece of experience. If you do something, don't do it once because it's a lot of effort. If you do something and you can make it a regular effort, it's much better. And you see here just a few examples, and actually, this tells it all. In September this year, 11 to 15, we will have edition number 19 of this summer school in Leuven. Now you might ask yourself, okay, a summer school on your field of expertise, what is so international about it? Well, the international aspect is twofold. It's the teaching staff on one hand, and it's the group of participants on the other hand. And if I just take, I think I put in the staff of last year, yes I did, who was teaching this 1-week course in Leuven. Names as such are not so very important, but a colleague from Stanford University, Patrick Anderson from Eindhoven, Evelyn from Ruijbeke from our sister university in Louvain-la-Neuve, McCoskov in Minneapolis, and Ewell from Illinois. So we bring in 5 colleagues in this field of expertise, and together, of course, with the KU Leuven team, so we are about 10 ZAP staff teaching this very, very intensive 1-week summer course. And we do this every 2 years. I should say that initially we did it every year, but that was too much. That was from an organizational point of view, it was putting too much pressure on the staff. So now we do it every 2 years. And so the staff is very international. What is also international is the participation. We get a few locals, but that's really just a few. You get some very nice pictures, and we tend to take it always in front of the Arenberg Castle in Leuven. But you see, we have had 18 editions, 60 participants. So we have been teaching rheology internationally to more than 1,000 people. What's the name of this program? It's the Summer School on Engineering Rheology. I have it, look, it's here. 4th European School on Rheology. What's my experience with it? Same as like with other initiatives, initiatives, the first few editions take a lot of effort. You have to set it up. You have to come up, for instance, with lab sessions. It's taking a lot of work. But after a few years, and that doesn't sound negative, it becomes a routine. You know, you get used to it, you know, the pitfalls. After a few years, it becomes easier. It becomes tradition. Okay. Also, after a few years, it becomes a tradition, so we don't have to advertise for it anymore. Because people know, okay, every so many years, the summer school will be in Leuven, so we get applications spontaneously, without really advertising for it. And now, this is a nice way, again, to attract researchers, but not PhD students, because it's aiming at PhD students, but this is a nice way to attract postdocs. Because PhD students come to Leuven, learn the environment, get interested, and might come for a postdoc. One thing, the last line is always, but of course, international people, international participants, there are some administrative issues which are unavoidable, like visa problems and so on. We don't have problems here with accommodation, we do it in summertime, but nevertheless, yeah, people need letters of invitation, need visa and stuff. One last thing which I put between brackets, and that is an Erasmus Mundus, sorry. Our division is smart, so we are not stupid. We take the picture when there is sunshine. It's typically good weather.
The second question, how is it affected?
Well, yeah.
Who pays the
I put it there somewhere. Yeah, I say that we don't want to make money but typically there is a little profit. We have two rates. We have a rate for participants from industry. I have to look it up. And we have a rate for PhD students from other universities. And we have a rate for PhD students from KU Leuven, which is making sense. I think for the PhD students, it's around 1,800 euros, but that includes the course, the lunch, the coffee breaks, the banquets, everything. So we go for a lump sum because that's much easier for the student if the promoter pays the registration fee, rather than saying this and this and this and this. We go for a all-included lump sum. And so this amount of money with, let's say, half participation from industry, pay more, but Herman is looking up. They pay more and the students paying less. It's basically breaking. So we pay our guests, we reimburse their expenses. Of course, their hotel, their travel, we pay, but they don't come to make money. Huh? They are friends. Huh? And this way we can go for a break even.
So I think especially my mom was finding first populated.
Look, if I would go back, I'm not going to do that. These are people in the field with whom we have been collaborating for many years. For instance, you see Jerry Fuller there, the first one. That's one of the persons who has spent one of my postdoctorals. To mention something. Chris McCusker, number 4 in the row, is the one who started this course in the States 50 years ago. And then he wanted to export it to Europe. And so he ended up in Leuven, and he still comes every year. So there are stories of long-term collaboration between all these people. I think I have probably publications with all of them, or maybe not with Paula, I'm not sure, but I typically have, and my colleagues the same. So these are, I would say, friends from the rheology group in Leuven. Now, these are 5 people. Can be that the next edition, one of these is replaced by somebody else. Of course, it's not always those 5, but we have no difficulty whatsoever finding international staff to come here. Not at all. The local staff also participates there. Of course. No, that's I think it's a fun activity. It's a fun activity.
I'm coming here to prove that.
Yes, like that. Yes.
Any more questions before I continue? Just one short thing to end with. And that is something I have been coordinating for many years in Leuven, but I put it now between brackets because it's no longer there. And I explain you why. It's an Erasmus Mundus called EUREO, European Rheology. What was the idea? Well, we applied to Brussels, to EU, to come up with a joint master, joint international master, but now, mind you, with 6 partners. We were the University of Minho in Portugal, Leuven, then we had our sister university, Louvain-la-Neuve, Huelva in Spain, Calabria in Italy, and Ljubljana in Slovenia. So these 6 universities jointly applied to EU to be able to set up a joint master program, EUREO, and we got it. Now the coordinator was Minho, and then every university had a local coordinator, which for KU Leuven was me. Now I should first I should say that getting the master approved means that you get money from Brussels to give fellowships to students and to have some operational money to run the thing for mobility of professors and so on and so on. How did it work? And this requires an explanation. It's a master, meaning it's 2 years of 60 credits. Now, the first year, 60 credits, the students go to one of the 6 partner universities and there take 1 year of study. Then, the second year, for 15 ECTS, all the students move to Minho and the professors go to Minho to teach to that group. So I have spent quite some days, weeks of teaching in Guimarães, which I didn't mind, and we still like Portugal. But okay, then the students are all in Minho in September, October, November, and then the students were redistributed to the 6 universities, and there they did a master thesis, whereas in Minho the teaching was done live, in person. For, again, this part of the teaching, we provided online courses. So this was complex. Wait. No. Okay. First, some factual information. We have done this from 2008 to 2015. Means we have done it for 6 editions. 5 sponsored by the EU, which is what you can get, and one sponsored by the money, well, I shouldn't say the profit, but the money we still had. We could afford a 6th edition, and we had money for 10 students per edition. Now, to come to your question, how were the students distributed? The consortium always met. The students had preferences, which they could, of course, express. And then we also looked at their background. Is their background more, I say, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering? Where would they fit, in our opinion, the best? And students could have arguments to say, for instance, I speak Italian fluently, so yeah, why not have that student in Italy then, for example? So the student could express their opinion, but we had to come up with a somehow balanced division of it. So, okay, we did it for 6 editions, and again, you get nice pictures. That's, well, I think it's nice pictures. That's me with some of the students, and this is now not in front of the Arenberg castles. These were taken in Minho, where I was going to teach, typically in September. Now, to answer your question, I'll skip this one for a minute. We got many applications, because students could apply, and then if they were selected, they would get a fellowship, so they get paid to study for 2 years in Europe. So you cannot just say, how are you going to select and to distribute those students? So we came up a priori with criteria. And actually, if you don't have a criteria, EU wouldn't approve your application, of course. We had to say, okay, we will look at academic results. We will look at background. We will look at language skills, and so on and so on. So these were the criteria together with the importance. And this way, we ranked students, and then we look, okay, this is a top student. Where would that student like to go? Does it more or less match? Now, this was a serious effort, because typically the consortium met at least a full day somewhere. We did this always live. This was pre-corona, so we met in person, just to, out of maybe 60, 70 applications, to come up with selected students. Okay. If I go back one slide, what was my experience with organizing an Erasmus Mundus? Well, first of all, the good news for the students, again, like Delaware, it's a great opportunity. They can come, they get a fellowship, they get opportunities, I think, beyond their dreams. After the master, because these were pre-selected students, they were typically good students, quite a lot of them went for a PhD at one of the partner institutes, which is good news. What is, well, yeah, it's a bit rare. A limited number of the students goes back to their home country. It's an opportunity for them, of course, to find a job in Europe or in the States or whatever. Some go back, but not the majority does not go back. It's a fact. Okay, and then you need the selection criteria to be fair, but that I discussed already. And then, from my personal experience, from an organizational point of view, boy, this is complex. It's complex because you have all those typically non-European students who need a visa, who need to travel, who have typically to stay at 3 locations, find accommodation at these locations. So that was very difficult. Teachers must be willing to teach on a regular basis, but that is a fact, but that was not a problem, not at all. The reporting to EU was extensive. Oh yes. They wanted substantial reporting, including, it's making sense, questionnaires to the students and evaluation, and the reporting was heavy. And then the idea of Brussels was that, and it was not only for our Erasmus Mundus, after 5 years it should be self-supporting. You should attract students that pay full fee so that you can continue. But that doesn't work. Because the students who applied for the fellowship, they typically and logically came from India, Ethiopia, China. They are looking for opportunities, but if the opportunity doesn't imply a fellowship, it's we could attract some self-supporting students, but not enough to keep this program running, because this program is quite expensive with all the travel and the moving and so on and so on. So with great regret, after 6 editions, we just had to stop because money was, we had no more money. I've been talking for a long time, so thank you for your attention. And there's 2 questions.
I would like to thank for the invitation and for your special thanks for very interesting presentation for me and for my colleagues from Internationalization Office and Erasmus. So we have a lot of questions. we need more details, and this allows to stay in touch in the future and to discuss in details.
It's a pleasure.
I just want to ask if it's something usually in your university to be a person in charge with internationalization in each department.
It's not compulsory, but it's typically done, yes. We try to have, because university has international office, and they deal with aspects such as, legal aspects, all those things which are important. But international office cannot judge content-wise. And if you want to judge content, you need to go, I think, to the level of the faculty or even the department. So we have a service at the level of the faculty, but still they are dealing with administrative issues. Students need an accommodation, students need, whatever. And then in the department, we have typically somebody responsible for internationalization, but that has nothing to do with the content. Is the background of this student suitable for taking courses here? Things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks again for interesting and useful.
My pleasure.